Recently, I turned a broken lava lamp into a terrarium. And so obviously my next question was, what else can I plant a little garden inside of? So that's what this video is all about. I'm gonna find the answer. There's this guy in England named David who has the oldest terrarium in the world. He started it in 1960. Just look how proud he is. For decades, it's just been thriving with very minimal work, which honestly sounds like a pretty great type of gardening. So the goal is this. I'm gonna try to learn as much as I can about terrariums, make 2 unique ones, and become a proud terrarium dad, just like David. Let's get it going. The first one I'm gonna make will be inside of this gumball machine. I picked up this beauty from a thrift store, and step 1 is to take it all apart, because I'm gonna have to do a bit of prep work in order to get it ready. A terrarium is just any clear container that has soil and plants inside, so I'm hoping this works. I'm thinking I gotta cover this whole part here where the gumballs come out. Ow, that like guillotined my finger. Oh my goodness. What I'm trying to say is that I gotta cover the holes so soil and water and stuff doesn't go down in there. I just cut up a little circle out of some plastic, then hot glued it to the inside. Okay, just like that. I think it's ready. And this whole time, there's been like this faint whiff of bubble gum and like, you know, that stale gumball smell, which brings back some nostalgic memories, and I think the plants are gonna appreciate it. Now, in order to make a functioning tiny ecosystem, there's a series of different layers that all serve a unique purpose. Think of it kind of like a multi-layer cake. You need all these different layers to make up the delicious terrarium. It's in reverse order, so you start with drainage rocks, and then building all the way up until you have your plants, your moss, and all the pretty stuff. Gravel is one of the more popular choices as a drainage rock because it's pretty cheap and easy to get. I took like 5 steps from the studio door to get mine. And in they go. First thing in our terrarium. Woo! I'm excited. Okay, I think that'll do it. It's looking good. The next step is, I had to check. The next step is charcoal. This one right here, that's what's going on next. Charcoal has some pretty amazing purifying abilities, and it's used in a lot of skincare, medicine, water filters, etc. So typically the main benefit here is to help remove impurities from the air and the water, and it can also help to absorb odors. Next up is adding the substrate barrier. I got this window screen that I'm gonna use, but I think any sort of mesh or something like this should work the same. Basically, it just stops the soil from sliding down into the rocks. Let's keep cruising along. What's next? It is sphagnum moss. I got this stuff online from Amazon, and apparently its use is to retain moisture, which makes sense because it's very light and fluffy. Another layer done. Next up is adding our substrate, which is a fancy term for the soil. There is lots of different variations out there. I just used a regular potting soil mixed with worm castings. Whew, I'm loving how this is looking. Like all the different layers. Whew. Oh, this is a really fun and satisfying process. And I'm not even at the really fun part of planting all the pretty stuff at the top yet. But we're about to be, actually. These are the plants I bought. We got a fern, a goldfish plant, that's fun. We got a photonia, and an unlabeled mystery one. Just says 4-inch tropical, so add a little mystery to the terrarium. So all these plants I had to buy, but the moss, I'm getting that for free. Just a few minutes stroll away, there's so much of it here in the forest. You may also have some free moss in your backyard, around an old deck or shed, maybe along the edge of your driveway. Just think of it as a fun little scavenger hunt. Or you can buy it online too if you want. You do you. Moss is so cool. It's like a little fluffy carpet. That's definitely a success. Oh, drop some. Look at all that moss. Now we're officially ready to get it going. I've been looking forward to this part. I started by placing in a nice rock from the forest, kind of as a main centerpiece, and then I just started adding some plants all around it. This is where the creative fun really started to happen. You can just design the terrarium however you want to. Add a little bit of moss here? Sure. What about adding some more right here? Bam! It's like building your own tiny world. It's so awesome. I've been going at this for a while now, as you could probably tell from how dark it is outside, but honestly this is the most fun I've had in a long time. 10 out of 10 recommend this process. Also, it smells so good in here right now. It's so close to being done, but I just realized I forgot to add something to our little chart here. What the heck are springtails? Don't worry, I didn't know either until recently. But they're these teeny tiny white bugs that live inside terrariums and they eat all of the mold and the fungi. They keep it nice and fresh and clean, so think of them as the janitors. Are these little cuties essential? No. From what I've read online, you can have a great, perfectly working terrarium without them, but you know me, I'm kind of curious and I want to see what they're all about. So, earlier today, I went to a pet store. And yeah, do you guys have springtails? Yeah. Oh, sweet. Thank you. And just like that, I was the proud owner of springtails. I'm too excited to wait until I'm back at the studio to see what they look like, so I'm just gonna take a little peek here in the parking lot. Oh! Just kidding. They're very small. Wow. They're jumping like crazy. Oh my goodness, what if they escape all in the car here? And I own like 50 to 100 of them. There's a whole town, a whole population in there. And now they're gonna be the proud inhabitants of the gumball machine. They're jumping so much. For such little bugs, they got mad hops. Okay, so from what I read online, you just grab the little bits of charcoal and you just shake them in. Oh, look at him. I'll name this one David, after my terrarium idol, David. There he goes. He's the mayor. I think they're liking their new home. There's still a ton in here. I don't really know how many to add. I don't want to overcrowd it, you know? Give them overpopulation issues. But what do I know? I didn't even know this bug existed until like 2 days ago. We're nearing the finish line. I'm gonna clean all this up because it's very messy, and then we'll put it all together. I added some lights to the inside of the lid, watered it, and voila, here it is. I love how it turned out. It looks so cool. And I really understand why David's passionate about terrariums, because that was such a fun process making this. It'd be crazy to make another one that's just teeny tiny. Like, that would be so ridiculous. Well, I'm doing it. I'm gonna try and make one inside this light bulb. Which meant I had to first empty it, so if you've ever been curious about what's all inside of a light bulb, well, now you know. Next, I filled it with sand for the drainage layer, and then just started building it up from there. Was it easy peasy? I wish. Honestly, it was pretty difficult. There's not a lot of space to work with in there. But I was determined and just got in the zone, as you can clearly tell by my weird concentration face. Whew. I feel like I'm going cross-eyed. Everything's so small. It's definitely making it pretty tricky. But I kept at it, and slowly but surely, my tiny light bulb garden was coming to life. This might be overly ambitious, but I kind of want to make a little pond on the inside. So like all ambitious ideas, I just went for it and started by coloring some epoxy resin, then slowly poured it inside to form a little water feature. So, I don't think that was the best idea. If you were watching that and thinking, what the heck are you doing? Well, kudos, because you guessed it early. It all just absorbed into the soil, and yeah, I think this whole thing is I probably just killed it, unfortunately, before it even had time to live. Should I try again? Of course I will. You gotta know by now that I don't give up that easy. I got a new light bulb and restarted the whole process, but this time I poured in the resin first when it was just the sand and the rocks. The next day it was dry, so I got back to the very tricky and time-consuming process of building the terrarium, and it is done. Woo! Look at it. I used some wire to make a little stand for it, and here it is, my tiny light bulb terrarium. Honestly, this was one of the more difficult projects I've done, and I had to do it twice. But I'm happy that I pushed through and did it. You know what'd be crazy? What if I made an even smaller light bulb terrarium? Nah, just kidding. That's well beyond my skill level. I ain't doing that. Hey, could you please consider subscribing? I'm trying to hit 300K by the end of the year, and it's coming up quick. So if you're not on board, please subscribe. I love you, and thanks for the support.